In America in the 1800s, people with mental illnesses were cast to the side. Christianity was the only major religion, and belief in the supernatural was common. People thought that those with mental illnesses had been possessed by demons and that there was no way to help them. However, there were a couple of activists who spoke out against these beliefs. They believed that the mentally ill were people too, and that they deserved to be treated with the same respect as everyone else in society. One of these people was named Dorothea Dix. In celebration of her 216th birthday, we've decided to interview her on one of her most important contributions to our society.
Nice to meet you, Miss Jones.
Nice to meet you, Miss Dix. Take a seat,
Thank
please. Hi, Dorothea. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great today.
So, Ms. Dix, what would you say is the biggest contribution you have made to the American people?
Well, I did many things. I've established dozens of new mental institutions across America and Europe, and I worked to better the reputation of female nurses.
Yes, I know. This has helped change people's perceptions of the prison population. You charged during the American Civil War with the administration of military hospitals and helped establish a reputation as an advocate for the work of female nurses. Very well, Ms. Dix. So, may I ask you about your childhood?
Yes, you may.
Alright, so how was your childhood like and what led to sparks of interest in the mental illness patients?
Well, my father, Joseph, was an itinerant Methodist preacher. He was a strict, volatile man who eventually sunk into depression. He was frequently away from home, and he started to turn alcoholic at one point. It wasn't pleasant. And coming to my mother, she has also suffered from depression. In 1836, I traveled in England with my friends, returning home months after. I came back with an interest in new approaches to the treatment of the insane.
I see. So it's your childhood that has led you to take an interest in helping the insane in the antebellum reform movement. So, coming to the next question. What steps have you taken next to further push your goal?
So I took a job teaching inmates in an East Cambridge prison. The conditions were so abnormal, and the treatment of the prisoners was so inhumane. This caused an urge in me to fix this, for I thought it wasn't proper.
How were the prisons at that time?
They were unregulated and unhygienic. They had violent criminals housed side by side with the mentally ill. Inmates were often subject to the whims and brutalities of the jailers.
That sure sounds horrible. Well, what action have you taken towards this then?
Well, I visited the public and private facilities that I could access, and then I documented the conditions I found without bias or alteration.
And what did you do with your findings, Ms. Dix?
I then presented my findings to the legislature of Massachusetts to take action towards the reform. The reports I found were absolutely insane. The prisoners were being flogged, starved, chained, physically and sexually abused by their keepers, and they were left naked without heat and sanitation. The audience was so shocked by my findings, and their reactions definitely helped push the movement even more.
Why is your reform movement so important?
My reform movement was so important because the people with mental health illnesses were often looked as if they were possessed by demons. People were so influenced by the Bible that they were too ignorant to see that these people needed help and proper places to be treated. Most importantly, they needed support from people and not looked down upon.
Why should people listen to you?
Well, they should listen to me because if they were in the same situation as the mentally ill, they would want the same support, right? And care. To simply put it, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Well said. Thank you so much, Ms. Dix, for coming to this interview today. And now we thank you for changing many people's lives today through your push for fair medical treatment for the medically ill. As a result of Dix's efforts, funds were set aside for the expansion of the state mental hospital in Worcester. She went on to accomplish similar goals in Rhode Island and New York, eventually crossing the country and expanding her work into Europe and beyond. After the war, Dix returned to her work as a social reformer. She traveled extensively in Europe and helped continue to write and offer guidance to what was now a widespread movement to reform the treatment of the mentally ill. Thanks to her, old hospitals were redesigned according to her ideals, and new hospitals were founded to accordance with her principles. Now, we can't forget her dear friend Benjamin Rush. Ben couldn't be here today, but here's a short background on him and his life's works. Benjamin Rush is an interesting individual. He was born just outside of Philadelphia in 1746. He showed great intelligence at a young age and attended the College of New Jersey, which is Princeton University today. He received his BA from there at the tender age of 14. He then went on to earn his medical degree from Edinburgh University. He went on to open a medical practice and earned a position as a chair of chemistry in the medical department of the College of Philadelphia. Rush eventually began to take an interest in the well-being of mental health patients. He wrote the very first psychiatric textbook printed in the U.S., called Observations and Inquiries upon the Diseases of the Mind. In 1812, he believed that mental illness was actually an inflammation of the brain, rather than demon possession. He created new methods of curing these diseases. He used bloodletting, purging, mercury, hot baths, and cold baths to try to help the mentally ill. His most famous method, however, is called a tranquilizing chair. Patients were to be confined to a chair where they were restrained in a way that was supposed to control the flow of blood to the brain. By lessening muscular action and reducing motor activity, Rush believed that it would reduce the force and frequency of the pulse. The chair actually did not work and did neither harm nor good for its patients. However, it left him dubbed the father of American psychiatry. We should forever be grateful for the contributions that both Benjamin and Dorothea made to our society. We have no idea how primitive and misguided we could have been today if it were not for their resilience and determination to help people that were struggling.